everybody. Welcome to School Safety and Security Show. Hope is not a tactic. I'm your host, Joe Pangaro, and I'm thrilled today to have a tremendous person with us today, Ms. Michele Gay. Michele is the Executive Director and co-founder of Safe and Sound Schools, which is dedicated to helping all of us keep our kids safe. Michele is also the mom of Josephine Gay. Josephine was one of the children that were killed in the horrific attack on the Sandy Hook school. And Michele, I thank you so much for coming on to help everybody make the kids safer. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's fantastic. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization, how it came to be, and what you do? Because I know you do a lot of tremendous things for people in schools.
Thank you. So Safe and Sound Schools is obviously born out of our very personal, tragic loss at Sandy Hook School. I'm joined by another mother, Alissa Parker, who lost her daughter, Emily, that same day. Joey and Emily were dear friends and classmates, and they had a lot in common. Although I didn't know the Parker family, Emily's family, before the tragedy, apparently our two girls had quite a connection, and were both very positive, welcoming, friendly little forces of nature in their class and in the school community. So Alissa and I really took our cue from the girls, when looking to build their legacies, and for us, being moms, having surviving children. I have two other daughters, one of whom survived in the building that day, another that was in a different school building. We had to send our surviving kids back to school, and that was hard.
Imagine
that was hard. And I know it wasn't just me. It was folks around the country, parents around the country, grandparents thinking, is it safe, or can we do this? And for me, I knew we had to do it. I knew from my girls that it was important that we do it, but I really needed help to be able to do it. So we started reaching out to people in law enforcement and mental health, and in education, leaders around the country. We started tapping into the experts out there in safety and security. And what we found was a wealth of knowledge that somehow, despite all the tragedies we've suffered throughout our history as a country, particularly school-based tragedies, that knowledge just wasn't making its way to the boots on the ground, the parents, the teachers, the students, and that really struck us. So that's become our mission, to ensure that every school has the tools and resources that they need to ensure school safety, from prevention through recovery. So that's us at Safe and Sound Schools. That's
fantastic. And I remember when I first met you, I was still in law enforcement, and you were doing a talking place in New Jersey, and I went to see it, and I was so moved by your story that I have to tell you, it changed the way I did things. I studied what happened at Sandy Hook, and there are so many lessons there that can help people, that I started to take them as best as I could and try and make a plan out of them. Here's what we learned, and every one of these incidents, which, unfortunately, we know there's been some since then, we want to prevent the next ones. But in each thing like this, there's lessons that can be learned, just about how to secure the buildings, the glass, the doors, the poor teachers having to go in the hallway to lock their doors. And that still happens in so many places. It's amazing. There are solutions out there. And I took that from as best as I could from your story. You moved me so much that it became my passion. And that's when I started teaching school safety and security. And then when I retired, I incorporated it into my business for training and going out there. And now I'm doing threat assessments all over the country, basically. And I share your passion to keep kids safe. I still have kids in school myself. And my son's in high school, and I drop him off, and he walks away from the car, and I'm hoping that the day is going to go well.
Absolutely. And I think, we're still living in an uncertain world, and, I have those conversations. My girls are both in high school now, and we have those conversations pretty regularly, but we're having those conversations. And I think that's important. It's not just looking at how we can make the school building and the facilities safer. And there are a lot of things we can do there. But there's a tremendous amount that we can do to just better educate and prepare students, teachers, and parents, so that we are as prepared as we possibly can be to get to safety, to keep our areas safe, regardless of what the circumstances might be.
You're right. And some of the things that I talk about that I would get your opinion on is that it's nice to have all the hardware and the equipment. That's one piece of it. But it's the internal threats that we have to look at, not just the external threat. Now at Sandy Hook, it was an external threat, and that equipment and that training can certainly help us there. But I try and break it down to internal and external and look at what can we, people that are violent like that don't just pop up on a Tuesday and decide to go hurt people. No. There are signs of potential problems before the violence erupts, and teaching the teachers what to look for, the administrators, you know, the things the kids draw, the things the kids they say, they write, the parents, what are your kids saying at home? What are you hearing? We all have to be a part of that. Do you agree with that?
I definitely do. And I think I have to say that as a culture, as a nation, we've really made tremendous progress over the last decade with the See Something, Say Something campaign. That has really kind of changed the way people think, and I think empowered them to speak up. I think where we see the real pitfall is that people are reporting, as we saw in the community of Parkland, people are reporting, and then if there is no mechanism, no infrastructure for the follow through, for intervention, for monitoring, for management of those threats and concerns that citizens, students, teachers, parents might bring up, then we're really not much better off than we were in the first place. So it's really more than just, you know, say something. It's really about, is there something in place? Have we worked together as a community to make sure that we can really do something? Because as you mentioned in our case, and as well in the case in Parkland, and sadly, almost all of these cases, there are warning signs and people are speaking up. But if they're not sharing information, if there is not a collaborative, multidisciplinary team that is assessing and constantly evaluating and looking back and monitoring these situations, then tragedy, unfortunately, is inevitable.
I agree, and they say it falls through the cracks. I don't find that to be a good answer, you know. And we look at Parkland, and you see they had just about everything you could have in place, even a police officer, and it still didn't help because they missed the signs. You know, I think one of the areas as a society we really need to consider is we still can't talk about the mental health issues. It's a taboo. We can't talk about it. We don't bring it up. But as a society, we're going to have to make some decisions that, you know, how do we maintain civil liberties? But at the same time, you have a person who's saying things like this and they have access to weapons. And I'm not an anti-weapon person. I'm a police officer and I get that. But you have to have common sense things. If people have mental problems, they're making threats, they're saying they're going to do terrible things, that person can't have a weapon. We have to, you know, remove that. But how do we do that within our constitutional boundaries? That's the law enforcement side of me.
Sure. And I think, you know, still talking about this particular case in Parkland at the high school, this is an example of a situation where people were seeing the signs, they were reporting the signs, but there wasn't that infrastructure, there wasn't that mechanism to intervene and to stay with that person so that person could be safe himself as well as the community. He was a danger to himself and the community. And in those cases, there is already legislation in place to provide protection for that person and for that community. So I think we can certainly look at how we shore that up, how we strengthen our capabilities there. But I still think it really comes down to, where is that information? Where are those tips? Where are those concerns? Where are they funneling? And who is owning them? Who is following it? Who is making sure that the family is getting the interventions they need, that there are social services and supports provided to an individual or a family, as well as letting that school community know, you know, you have this risk here, and so you need to make sure that your school, your building, the people, the place, and the practices are all as sound as they can be, so that if God forbid, this erupts into something, you are prepared to keep everyone safe.
I agree. And when I look at that, I say on the law enforcement side, we have a narcotic problem, so we have a narcotic division. We have a vice problem, we have a vice division. There needs to be something specialized specifically for this. Now, I know they have resource officers, and that's good. It's usually cops in the school, talking to the kids, but a unit within the PD that follows up on this. I mean, and also in the schools, I know as a school security director, when you look out there, there's probably only about 39% of school districts in the country that have a full-time school security director, someone to look at security as their job, as opposed to some administrator that has everything else to do. So I think you're right about that. We need to focus our society on this is important, and here is a real answer to these things. A police division or a couple detectives, just like a task force that are set up to pay attention to that and follow up on those investigations.
So I like the word you said, task force. I like those words because we are proponents for threat assessment and management teams in school communities and in the greater communities as well, because we want to see that there are dedicated professionals in law enforcement, in mental health, in the schoolhouse, and out in the community that are available when these concerns come up to be looking at these things from all angles, to be tapping into the resources and connections that they all uniquely have because of their discipline or their profession, and making sure that those channels of communication are open and continual so that we can stay on top of these things.
I think that's outstanding, and I think together we've come up with some solutions here. Now, why don't you tell us real quickly a couple of the programs that your organization is running and how can people contact you?
Yeah, for us, a lot of it is about, I'm a teacher, right? I'm always gonna identify as a teacher. So if for me, education, knowledge is power. That's how we have solved some of the greatest societal problems, that we've ever faced as a civilization. So for us, a lot of it has to do with making sure that parents, that teachers, that students have the resources that they need, the education that they need to be able to really engage and become a part of school safety. So it's not just the police job anymore. It's not just
all of our jobs.
Yeah, we got to be all hands on deck here in terms of school safety and community safety. So, we have parents, we have a parent program coming out, Parents for Safer Schools. Right now you can kind of get a sneak peek at it on our website, safeandsoundschools.org. To just kind of explore what it's growing into. We also have a student program, Safe and Sound Youth Council program, designed to allow students to step up in a leadership role, to really be a part of and learn about public safety and school safety through service projects, annual service projects. We have our straight A safety toolkits and program that they've been out there and growing for several years now. We get a lot of engagement and a lot of interest from those, and many more are in the final stages of development and ready for release this school year. So we encourage folks to check us out, check back often, and to join us, become a part of our national community. So
safeandsoundschools.org.
Got it.
All right, so everybody out there that's watching, this is important. That's why we're here, right? This is the School Safety and Security Show. Go to safeandsoundschools.org, see what Michele and her organization have to offer. Let's all make our schools safer. Michele, I want to take a second and tell you, I really appreciate you coming on. I know we've written articles in the past together, and it was really well received. Your voice is important. You're a tremendous advocate for school safety and security, and this is great to have you here. I think maybe in the future, if I could get you to come back, maybe we could talk about recovery from an event. I think you lived through that community. What happened? I think we could talk about that.
Important aspect of school safety. Absolutely. That's why our mission is prevention through recovery. So I will look forward to that, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much. And you know what? Josephine, very proud of her mom.
Thank you. I hope
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Michele. We'll see you next week on the School Safety and Security Show. Hope is not a tactic. Remember, we're all part of the solution here. See you then.